Hi, and welcome to Culture Lit, a podcast and community that explores Black women and romantic love through the lens of romance novels. I'm your host, Octavia Marie. Each episode of Culture Lit shines a spotlight on a new Black romance novel and then deep dives into the many themes facing Black women and love after 40. Be ready to laugh, sigh, and talk about Black women falling in love, yes, sex too, and the Black authors writing their stories.
Welcome back to Culture Lit. I'm your host, Octavia Marie, and today I'm trying really hard not to completely fangirl because y'all, we have her in the house. If you spent any time on Book Talk, Bookstagram, or just in the Black romance community, you already know her pen runs deep. Her stories have built an entire universe, one that connects families, neighborhoods, and generations across series in ways no one else is doing right now. From the Staten Island love stories and the Delgato Inferno verse, to the Brookwood and the Casellis, to her latest release, Heart of a Goon, and the upcoming Ashborne series. And let me tell you, we are obsessed. I'm talking about the one and only Jahquel J, the author whose work has readers and entire book clubs in a chokehold. Hi, Jahquel. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. So this is kind of on a personal, but I was in treatment for cancer a few years ago. So I want you to know that starting with Staten Island Love Story, got me through 4 hours chemo treatment every couple of weeks. So I kind of disappear into your world. And I started with chemo and I was like, I need something to get me through. I was like, it popped up in my Kindle. I was like, I haven't read her in a long time. Let me, jump back in here. So I started with that and then went into, I was like, okay, Capone is next. And you got me through for about 2 years of treatment. I am so excited to talk to you.
That's amazing. Second, I done stretched you out during chemo.
No, and luckily I started where I did because all of the books were already out. I don't think I have read anything else. I have, but sparingly. I can't get out of the Delgatoverse. So how does that feel? We were originally scheduled to talk in early October. So this works out perfect for me because Heart of the Goon is out. But how does that feel? Everybody is talking about you, from readers, authors. You kind of have, everybody is waiting now like, hell no, what just happened? So how does that feel for you?
It feels amazing. I'm still in shock sometimes, but I do get sad when everybody's like, you got me in the slump. And I'm like, I didn't mean to. That wasn't my intention.
Because the girlies are not okay. The entire timeline right now are losing their minds over Zoya and Goon's story right now. When you started this, did you anticipate this kind of reaction, or how does it feel seeing this real-time reaction as people are reading and commenting and going down this rabbit hole?
So when I was writing Heart of a Goon, I knew that because Goon was such a character everybody couldn't wait to hear from. And Zoya was one of those characters where everybody loved her, but they really didn't know her.
Right.
So I kind of knew when I was writing her that a lot of women would relate to her, and just the dynamic between them two. I just knew that people were going to be like, oh my God, Zoya. Oh my God, I love Goon. Zoya, why are you doing this? Like, I already knew, and I had warned people. I made a TikTok like, hey, not too much on her. Like, be patient. Like, let's ride this wave out a little bit. Let her see what she do. So I kind of knew that the dynamic between them two would be back and forth, and people would be like, oh my God, like, what did I just read?
Feel like women, or they weren't as, because I felt like they gave Capri a hard time. They gave Amy a hard time. The girls were a little harsh on them, but I don't feel like they're as, it felt like just like scrolling through the social media and just listening to the conversations that had happened. It almost felt like it felt like more women, I get this, I understood her a lot more. It felt a little different, their reaction to Zoya, than Capri and the mistakes and things. I don't know if they understood the Jah pen a little bit more where it comes to her female characters, that there's this period of growth and these things are happening, but it felt like immediately they understood Zoya.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it was a mirror holding up to themselves. So while
Hmm.
they were being angry at some of the things she did, it was kind of like, dang, I do that too. Like, I'm a self-sabotager too. So I think a lot of them could really understand where she was coming from, because in the Delgado universe, we didn't get much on Zoya. We just know she's this lawyer, like she's
Hmm.
confident, but we didn't get much on her. Whereas with Capri, we got her through Capone and Capadonna series. So as much as they were hard on her, they didn't really truly understand her till we got into her season. But with Zoya, I think it kind of surprised them because anytime we see her, she's just this big presence. She's the big dog. So I think once they realize, like, hey, like she's struggling. Like I can relate to that.
Yeah, and I did see there were some aspects. There were some women they were kind of had like they were shocked that so many women identified with her, and I think sometimes we don't leave room for different experiences. Every
Hmm.
woman, they experience trauma differently. They experience pain differently. They experience grief. And I don't know if people even a little bit with Capri Sun, there was some type of trauma, and some of her stuff were, but with Zoya, I think people understood immediately because they had read Menace that there were some
Hmm.
additional triggers there.
Yeah.
And so it seemed like they were a little bit more gracious with her, I think.
Yeah, I think they were more gracious than I thought. I just knew they were gonna rip Zoya apart,
Same.
and I was just like, be patient with her because a lot of us struggle with some of the things she struggles with. And for the women that couldn't understand like why so many relate, I always when somebody asked me, that, I was like, thank God that they can't relate. That's a blessing that you cannot relate with the things that Zoya is going
Hmm.
through. But it
Exactly.
doesn't take away the fact that there are women that are, the strong friend, the friend that is there for everybody, but nobody really is there for them or know what's really going on. So that's what I kind of wanted to bring kind of a spotlight to when it came to Zoya, because she's just this strong presence in Capri and Blair's life that she doesn't never let anybody be there for her.
Exactly. You said earlier that people were kind of waiting on Goon and Zoya's story, which I found so interesting because, like you said, people got to know Capri and they got to know Capadonna through Capone's story. They got to know, Capri some in Capone's story and then Capadonna's story. So by the time people felt like they knew her, and I thought, I was like, nobody really knew much of Goon. He only said about 6 words.
That's exactly how I felt. I said that man said 3 words and everybody was like, we need a story on him. I'm like, I never gave any of his background, and then I slowly gave little pieces of, you found out that he's Jamaican and just small things, but never enough to really know his full story. So I'm like, he said 3 words. What do y'all want to hear from him?
And I was like, I don't know. I was kind of waiting on, this, but I was like, okay, I'm rock with it. I'm rock with it. Now, Zoya did interest me because of course, I knew so many people can see themselves in her, and even just a little bit, like, the parents. That my father died when I was young, and so some of the stuff, just from what we saw initially with Zoya, I recognize immediately. So you recognize the walls, you recognize the confidence and, what you see on the outside, but you also know that, nah, there's a deeper story there. There's grief, that there's clearly unhealed grief. And so we got to see that play out finally, um, in Heart of a Goon.
Yeah.
When you put the Casellis together, was Goon going to always be Zoya's guy? Did you always know when you started these stories that those two were going to be the couple?
So they were always going to be a couple.
Okay.
I didn't have a book planned for Goon. I had small chapters within other books, like him and Zoya was going to be within the Quasim series.
Wow.
But it was so much going on with them that I was like, you know what? Let me give them a book. Let me see where this goes. But I always knew they were going to be together. But I was trying to decide if I give Goon his own series or if I add another book to the Casellis. So in the end, when I just started writing it, I felt like it was taken, as much as it's Goon's book, it's also Zoya's story too. So I was like, I'll just merge them both. So you get a little bit of the Delgato Infernos, but you also get the Casellis all in one book.
And the Caselli family dynamics are so intense. When we had Menace in 10,000 Hours, and then Don, and now Heart of a Goon and Zoya, and of course we have Kora coming up. You can, especially between Menace and Don, and then from Zoya, and I'm assuming, of course, we'll see that each kind of took in that trauma and that grief in different ways. And we have Menace and Kora, of course, were the oldest, and uh, Zoya and Don were the youngest. How do you keep each sibling story distinct while still maintaining that family thread?
When it comes to each sibling, they kind of speak to me and they can honestly tell me who they are. Like Menace, when I was developing Menace, I was kind of like, no, I cannot make this man like this. Like, no, he's gonna be super. And I warned people, like, hey, he's different. Menace is a little bit different. And I did the same with Stevie. I'm like, hey, Stevie's not my typical FMNC, but I relate with her so much because I'm quirky like Stevie is. And sometimes I be in my own world. But they all took on a space of their own, and I kind of mirrored them after my own siblings in a way. So I took small personality traits from each sibling, and I just kind of like merged them and made the Casellis.
Okay.
So that's just really how they came to be.
And were you surprised? Because people actually, I think I find myself doing it too now, like taking certain phrases from the 10,000 Hours with Menace, how he had a way of hearing stuff that no one said. Did you expect people to gravitate to that or gravitate to him like they have?
No, I mentioned Menace, and I want to say Capri 3. I
Yeah.
think he first was mentioned in like 2.5, but not really much. And then 3.5 is when he really showed that he's cuckoo. But after that, people were like, Menace, I like Menace. And I'm just like, little do you guys know, like, he's going to be different. And when I first released this book, I was like, I'm not even going to just watch videos and nothing like that because I just know they're going to be like, oh, this crazy man. And then once his book dropped, people was like, I love Menace. And I'm like, huh?
Because if we met Menace real live in person,
I would run.
we would be asking for restraining orders. No
Running.
one would be like, this man is my man, my man, my man.
Running.
Like, his red flags all up and down Menace.
He is. Like, he is the walking red flag.
He is a walking, and I'm like, everybody's like, oh, that's so cute. If Menace was under your bed smoking a cigarette on markers,
would be calling the police.
Those of us who have guns would have shot him. I mean, it's cute in fiction.
We would be running for sure. I know I would.
Now, that ending in Heart of a Goon, it is cracking me up. I go into the chats and the talks, and people are literally creating all of these stories about what has happened, what happened at the end, who's the Red Hook, and I'm like, how is Promise the Red Hook killer? People are like, it's Promise. It's got to be Promise. And so now this is like the who is the Red Hook killer has kind of taken on a life of its own. As I was sitting here going through, and I was like getting ready to talk to you, I was like, when was it first mentioned? I kind of went back and I was like, I don't remember the Red Hook killer being mentioned before. Initially, I thought it was like Quasim 3 was the first time I heard it, but maybe it was somewhere up in Quasim. Did we hear about it before? Those books? And now everybody's like, oh, it's so-and-so and so-and-so. And then you really tipped it up when you were on the live with Turn the Page. Oh, so now it's chaos now. And I think you kind of throw Easter eggs in it. And then I also think you throw stuff in there to throw people off. So now people are just like all over the place with the Red Hook killer and what happened at the end of Heart of a Goon. Did you expect this kind of reaction from that?
Knew it would be chaos, but I didn't think it was gonna be like this. Like, see the Red Hook killer. At first, I was like, "What's RHK?" I was out the loop. I'm like, "Oh, they done abbreviated. It's Red Hook killer." So, I didn't expect it, but watching who people think it is and trying to put the pieces together and trying to figure out Menace's uncle, what he had going on, is hilarious because I've seen Gene is a Red Hook killer, Wiley, Havoc. Like, I've seen everybody name every person
Every
that could
character.
be the Red Hood killer, and I'm just like, guys.
Like every killer on down to the babies. I was like, okay, even the babies are in the run. Gams is in the running. And so it threw. Now I'm not gonna lie, it threw me off when you refer back to Staten Island Love Story. I was like, well, the only person that kind of makes sense is Nash. Then I remembered a part of Staten Island Love Story, which I was like, I wonder if this has something, because there's a part where Mo talks about Nash and how he ended up with the marker that he knew that he saw his name in his father's files, and he knew that Nash owed his father money for someone that he had killed. But then there was a little bitty thing, and I thought, okay, well, that doesn't make sense now. Where he says that his father hadn't really pulled up on Nash about it because the man that was killed was someone he wanted killed. So then that threw me off, and I was like, okay, even I'm like, well, hell, who is the damn? So you enjoyed that?
I do. I do enjoy watching everybody try to figure it out, and I'm just like, when it gets to when you guys get high, I'm like, they're getting on my trail, so I gotta go ahead and switch it. And it's
And
so
I
many
said that.
times
I've
that
said
you
that. I
guys
said
get
somebody
it.
has gotten close, because I feel like every time someone gets close, you throw out another red herring. You're really diabolical. Some of the way you release your books are so unique. Like, you release them like almost like movie premieres, like with trailers and teasers and countdowns. Is ha- have you always kind of done it that way, or how did that kind of strategy evolve? Because I love the way you do that. Even the soundtrack to the book that you curate for each season. How did that evolve?
So I started doing that kind of with Capone. So I started messing around with my different how to release. I wanted to keep it engaging where everybody would be excited. Like, okay, this book is coming. We're excited it's coming, but it's like the small things like the promo or the trailer or the playlist or the Pinterest boards. I love adding those things because once they look at the Pinterest board, they swear they know the story, how the story's gonna go. They're piecing it together like, oh, she got palm trees, so they're going this way, and it never goes that way. But I started with Capone, and once I realized everybody really did like the rollouts, I continued with Capadonna and Capri and so forth. So that's really how it started. Like, I always done playlists. I've been doing playlists for years, but just recently with the Delgatos, I added the Pinterest boards and the different promo and stuff like that.
So even the playlist that you do, even those are just highly anticipated, and people can't wait for the playlist also. How do you curate those playlists?
Well, when I start my curating a playlist, I'm usually curating a playlist when I'm currently working on a book, like a different book. Like now with Goon, I've curated Kora's book. So it's usually never in real time. It's just anytime I'm listening to music, I'll feel like this actually really goes well with this book or this goes well with that book. And sometimes even when I'm still like in Goon, there's some songs that I'll listen to like, okay, let me just add this onto the playlist. Even though it's technically done, I'll still add like a song or two that I feel like needs to be on that playlist.
There was one I was like, when I first heard this song from Cardi B's new album, I was like, this needs to be on the Goon playlist, because the moment I heard it, I thought of Zoya. That song Safe with her and Kaylani.
And I think I added that.
Did you? Okay. I was like, no, that's them. That is Goon and Zoya in this story, this song.
It really is.
Immediately I thought of them. You've been really intentional now about not giving hard release dates anymore. Has it affected your creative process and your relationship with your
It's hard because I be wanting to share like, hey guys, it's coming on such and such date, but I know that I can't because some do understand Amazon and some don't. So if I say a date and I say like, hey, it's coming December 30th, and then it doesn't release on December 30th at 12 a.m., they're beating down Amazon's walls like, hey, where's this book? So I've had to like pull back on giving those release dates just because, but It's hard not telling them because when they ask, I be wanting to put like, "Hey, it's coming in 2 days." But I started doing small things where they'll notice, like I'll update my bio and my Instagram about whatever book. I have a section that says current book. So once I update that, which I used to think nobody paid attention to that, but clearly, like when I update that, they will post it like, "Hey, she updated it. Goon 2 is coming," or Quasim 3 is coming.
And it's literally like, it could be minutes after you post.
I'm still in the app at this point when they when they post it. So I do small things where I don't tell them the date, but they know like, hey, she changed her bio, she updated her profile pic. We ended up, getting a sneak peek, so we know that it's coming. So I understand because I'm an anxious girly that people get anxious. So it's like, at least this is something to kind of soften not getting a release date. You just know that, okay, it's about to come.
But that pressure must still be intense because, like, as soon as Heart of a Goon drops and people release them like the next day, when's Kora's coming? How do you manage those expectations while also still kind of protecting your creative energy?
It's hard because as much as they want, when I release a book and they want the next one, I want to give it to them, but it's also, I think I've also spoiled a lot of them because they're so used to now getting my books so fast because I was in this whole creative bubble and just writing, and I still am. But I've also realized I have to slow down my releases because they expect it. And I'm like, these are not K books. These are 100 and 100. I think Goon was 130 or 40K. So I'm like, these are 100, 140K books that are released in months apart, where a month apart, where usually it's realistic to release every 3 months or every 6 months. So I've started to pull back on how quickly that I'm releasing, because while there's some that appreciate it and they always show love, there's also some that kind of get entitled, and it's kind of like,
and I want to be like, get off my bestie, because in my head you're my bestie. I'd be like, back up off my bestie now. You've been back to back to back. There's Quasim and Quasim 3, and I think the anticipation for Quasim 3, and then Goon now and the Goon 2 and Kora. What does self-care look like for you when you're in the middle of this release and and then you're shipping books and you're at signings and it's so much. So between writing, the promotional, the book festival, and life, it's a whole lot. What does self-care look like for you?
truthfully, I haven't had much self-care. I've been on a go. But usually when I do have the time, self-care is simple for me. I like to get ice cream. I like to watch my favorite shows. Sometimes I like to cook. I really do love deep cleaning my kitchen. For some reason, the ideas go crazy in my head about writing when I'm knee deep with elbow deep in dishes.
Okay, that's different.
My self-care is super simple. I love going to Marshall's or Ross, just seeing what they got, even though I know I got no business being up in there.
When I was in treatment, I was doing a lot of different tea blends and matcha, and the whole process of making it, this ritual process, calms me down, centers me, because people are so used to this hustle. So like for you, it's like, okay, let me go wash these dishes.
I'm like a super simple person. It's like people think like, are you going to go on a celebratory dinner? No, I'm going to do dishes. I'm going to probably watch my same show that I've watched 70 million times. And then when I do have time, I usually read, but I don't have the time mostly now to read as much as I love to. But yeah, those are things that kind of like give me self-care. And if my husband sees me too much in it, he'll, take me on a drive or something just for me to get away from my computer.
And you said you're reading and your favorite shows. What shows are you watching?
So I love The Crown on Netflix. Yes, I've watched it. Maybe I'm a little bit ashamed to admit how many times I've watched it. I've watched this show probably about 6 or 7 times, and it's my favorite comfort show to go to because as somebody who writes cliffhangers and you never know what's gonna happen next, make me anxious. I love mafia documentaries and crime and stuff like that. So I'm in the Animal Planet. I love watching Animal Planet.
When we're reading your. Hey, romance book lovers. It's your host, Octavia Marie, and I've got something exciting to share with you.
You already know how much I adore Black romance books. Now I've taken it to the next level. Introducing Culture Lit Podcast digital bookstore on bookshop.org. Visit bookshop.org/shop/Culture Lit Podcast. That's bookshop.org/shop/Culture Lit Podcast. This is the spot where you can find every swoon-worthy romance novel I've ever raved about on the podcast and so much more. Not only can you snag your next favorite read, but every purchase supports independent bookstores and celebrates the voices of Black authors in romance. It's a win-win for readers like us who love keeping the Black romance literary community thriving. Thank you for being a part of the Culture Lit podcast community, and happy reading. I can't wait to hear what books you fall in love with next.
Books. It's like some of the stuff though, I'm like, that sounds real specific. That sounds very authentic. Especially when I was reading like Capone's books, and I would call like, homies or like my friends or family. Does this sound like? Don't this sound real? Nah, she knows somebody. She knows she knows to me. Because how do you get that authentic? Like, nah, this don't sound fiction, right?
I literally just use my imagination. I use some stuff that I do know from real life experiences, and I just add them, and then I just add a little bit of other stuff up in there, and I end up coming up with what I come up with.
Across like these seasons and families, who are your favorite male and female characters that you created? Or is there someone coming up that you're like, he hasn't been written yet?
I would have to say Quasim is my favorite because I feel like he gets so much hate for being a grieving guy, and
I was like, this man literally loves his girl and his baby a year later, and he can't be confused.
he literally gets so much hate for being unsure about Blair. And they're literally my favorite season because for once it was literally the female that was reassuring the guy, letting him know, kind of in a way chasing him, letting him know like, hey, I'm here. I want to be with you. I love you. And from season 1 to 3, we had Capone going after Erin, Capadonna going after Elia, Mir going after Capri. So it was, for me, it was a welcome change of a female actually reassuring a man, because as much as we love like the MMCs and they're unhinged and stuff like that, in reality, some men need to be reassured. They need that level of knowing like, I'm here. I want to be with you. And a lot of people love Simi, but a lot of people's like, he pisses me off. And I'm just like, sheesh, God forbid a guy loses his girl.
Yeah, he
Like,
is
he was
literally
really
in the
going
throes
through
of
something.
grief. I think people, again, think everybody processes grief the same. And it literally looks different from person to person. And there are times when I'll think of something, or, someone that's close to me has passed, and I will literally be like, damn, and just get,
Yeah,
you
it
get
just hits you.
It hits you out of nowhere years later. It could be, 2 years from now, 10 years from now.
It comes in
Grief,
waves.
it comes in waves, and you just don't know how it's going to come. His was so recent. It wasn't like 10 years and he's still like, it was in the last year or two. Like, can he have
And then
that?
he had to watch his brother. Like, he has a whole niece that would be around the same age as his daughter. So that was another, kind of thing where you think like, sheesh, if my daughter was still here. And I'm just like, sheesh, can a guy not grieve and be unsure? And then he had this woman who, she had cancer. So that was another scare where he
Yes.
lost his daughter to cancer. So the thought of losing somebody else, that kind of scared him too. Quasim he has a special place in my heart. That's one of my favorite seasons. I love all my seasons, but his season just hit different, and I think his was the most emotional.
Yeah, for me, my favorites so far have been Capri and Quasim, and I think because there was so much growth in all of those characters. Blair, Quasim, Capri. Now Mir was always, he knew what he was.
He kind of knew what it was, and Mir just got it together. Like, he didn't have to go through anything.
Right.
He kind of knew, like, Capri was mine. I'm not about to play games with her. Like, I'm gonna marry her.
Exactly. So, but for Quasim, the growth and his development, and it's just how he, to see him we always saw the strong part of him, but to see that vulnerable part, we say we want these men with emotional intelligence and vulnerability, and then you're like, he taking too long. I was like,
Right.
well, I thought we wanted someone with some a little emotional intelligence. I think your male like for real, your male characters are problematic real life now because now everybody is looking for a Quasim or a Mir. Hell, Menace at this point. I'm like, we really want a Menace in real life? Okay. How do you write these men who are protective without being like possessive, strong, but not, without being well, without Menace? Because I think Menace is in his own lane, but then
He is definitely his own.
because yeah, but then
Menace is
they're
everything
strong.
that you just named. He's everything not
Exactly,
that.
exactly. But we still want him. But everybody except for Menace. How do you write these guys?
Well, I mirror a lot of them off of my husband. So
Okay,
when I was
Lord,
developing the
please tell me there's no
Delgatos,
Menace in him.
no.
Are you the Menace in the
I'm the Menace.
relationship?
So when I was developing the Delgado series, I kind of wanted to do a different approach when it came to the males. Like from my previous, my males are good. They're good
Hmm.
men and they have some kind of flaws, but they weren't really like that emotional or they didn't,
Hmm.
show that kind of affection and not only towards their women, but towards like their brothers and how the Delgados, they're quick to drop a kiss on each other's forehead and,
Hmm.
embrace each other and just all the males in that. So when I was developing that, I kind of took all of that and put that into them because I really wanted to showcase that these men, they go out in these streets, they shooting up everything behind these females, but when they come home, they're the softest version of themselves with their women and their family.
Absolutely. Is there a character you've written that surprised you? Like they were supposed to be one thing, but they're demanded to be something else?
I would say Kora. Sure.
Because people think they know who Cora is, and you're only now just getting a little taste of who she is. Because now I think everybody thinks she's Queen Pin now. Your dialogue, there are certain times that these are exactly like conversations I've had with my friends or family. How do you capture those voices, keep the dialogue so authentic?
It's kind of like what you said. Like I literally, some of these conversations are conversations that when the Delgados are just joking around with each other and teasing each other, that is my family. Like the Casellis, we literally ask each other, like, "You hate me?" Like, we literally ask each other and that's where I pulled it from. We ask each other rhetorical questions all the time that, like, "So you said you want me to stub my toe?" Like, stuff where it's like, anybody normal walking into our house would be like, "Alright, yeah, there's something wrong." So I just literally pull, and usually when I'm working on a chapter or is a scene with heavy dialogue, I see it in my head first. So as I'm envisioning it and I'm hearing the voices of what they're talking about or what the scene is about, I'm just literally just typing along to what I'm already envisioning in my head.
Okay, wow. Well, you have such an extensive universe. And especially now that all of these universes tie together and that connect from one story to the next. For example, when you said, go back to, Staten Island Love Story. With such an extensive universe, how do you keep track of all these details and these plot lines and these like is there some like massive spreadsheet or murder board you have with
There
red strings kicking everything? Because like and it seems like you're always kind of dropping these little Easter eggs in all of the stories that and somehow they'll all come back and connect.
For sure. I do that all the time. And at first nobody really paid attention to them. Like when Kendra ran into Corleone and nobody knew. I drop them all the time, and even the smallest detail, I always when I'm writing, I'm like, I hope they pay attention to this. But some do. Some like she don't give a name unless that person's important. So I need to remember this person
Exactly.
or
Just
this
like that
person.
Sabrina character. I was like, okay, this has to be the missing woman that Benihana was looking for.
Yeah, I
And I was
refuse to get that girl.
I have been calling her Bingle Bop for a while. And stuff like that is like when you've seen people get like that enmeshed in your universe that they start saying and doing these things and not even realize it that you're like, wait, that is not that girl's name. But
It cracks me up.
because I'm like, when you drop stuff like that, I would have never paid attention to that girl initially unless her name wouldn't have been up. She dropped a name. That means something. I feel like something else is going to come back. It seemed innocuous, like just there, but I was like, no, I feel like that's going to be like, that's going to come back around somehow. I don't know if she's going to be, if there's going to be another storyline, but Navy's mom with her job. And when she was talking to Navy for a birthday, maybe she was talking about kids, and the kids were part of some missing kids. They ended up being missing kids.
Yep.
At first, I thought, is this another plot line that's going to go into another story? Because it's not necessarily the egg farming. It's not the Red Hook, but this like missing kids. But I feel like they all tie back. The Red Hook killer, the missing kids, and this egg thing are all going to come back together and interconnect. Am I off there?
You're not. You're not. They are of a big story. So I mentioned Navy's mom and her job because it plays into Goon series. So you guys will find out what that when she had to, get those kids, the missing kids. You're gonna find out within Goon's story, like who.
Hey girl, hey. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you sign up for our occasional newsletter and join our community at culturelitpodcast.com, where we share book reviews. You can interact with our guests and you'll have a chance to tell me your story and be a part of our community. That's culturelitpodcast.com. Now back to the show.
Those missing kids are.
Everything seems so interconnected and there's a lot of moving pieces. What is your actual writing process? Are you planning these outlines, or do the characters lead you? Or once you start writing the story, just kind of lead you there? Or are you plotting this out ahead of time?
So I've planned them out and I try to stick to that plan, but these stories and these characters, they take me, I'm like, well, now how the hell did I end up here? But I always plot them out and try to stick as close to the storyline as I can, but mostly an idea will pop out and I'm like, you know what? They will never suspect this. I'm adding this. Like with Goon 2, like the plot twist in that is kind of like, you guys gonna be like, what the hell? Jahquel, you just be behind there doing stuff.
I was like, what the hell at the end of Goon?
A few things you have like, okay, well, how did Inez know he was at this party? How did Inez know how did she know who 40 is? Or things like that. So these are things that like I wanted people to think like she wouldn't know who 40 is. She wouldn't know where he's at this party. Like she's the one who brought them there. Who are they? So it's like, it's so many questions that I love to see where people's heads are. And most of them is like, it's the Red Hood killer. And I'm just watching.
I can't even keep it together. How do you keep all of this together?
Lots of notes. Like I have a ton of notes. I have sticky notes everywhere. In my phone notes, like it's just filled with nothing but pen notes of any little thing. Like if I'm driving and I'm like, oh, okay, let me connect that there. I'm pulling over to the side, like, let me add this while it's fresh in my mind because I will forget. And that's why sometimes someone will be like, well, you have a Reggie that is Elias' dad, and then you have Randy's dad that's Reggie. And I'm like, girl, I forgot about Reggie. I just thought of the name Reggie. I swear they're not connected. So well, you have different characters that have the same name. And I'm like, yeah, if I worked on a book maybe 4 years ago, I promise you, other than the main characters, I don't remember the small people.
And it's so funny, but you throw so much at people now that people think everything is something with you.
They don't trust me. They do not trust me at all.
At all. Because even I found myself like highlight, like, why she say that? That must mean something. So I get it, because now everything you write now, people are rethinking like, did she mean something by that? The other thing is you actually tackle some heavy topics like trauma and addiction, family dysfunction and violence, but there's still this happily ever after, this happy element at the end. How do you balance between keeping it real, and especially when you're doing such a gritty series like these that connect with, real life stuff and then giving readers like hope at the same time.
I like usually when I'm adding something that's real life, because I know it's fiction, and they're
Mhm.
kind of like, we just reading the escape. But I also do love to add things where people can relate that are real. Like with Capone having sickle cell, there was so many people that reached out to me, like, I have sickle cell, and nobody really writes about it or
Mhm.
understands it, or touches on the struggles that we go through. And when I was researching it and also knowing people that have it, I felt like I needed to write about it just to put the awareness out there.
Mhm.
I think with epilepsy, with Capella having epilepsy and Alaya going through, her childhood trauma and, being a teen bride and stuff like that. These are things that are really happening. And in my universe, as much as it's fun and we love the
Mhm.
karaoke and the shootouts and the highways, I also like to bring some kind of realism to my universe, because at the end of the day, some people love reading about themselves in a book where they can relate and be like,
Mhm.
okay, because sometimes you can't relate to the character who, she has the hourglass body and she's
Mhm.
perfect and she shops all day and all of that. So that's why I started making my characters plus size, or they go through something, or they have, some kind of like mental struggle, or like with Menace,
Mhm.
as crazy as he is, it's kind of like people like, is he autistic? And I'm like, do you think he's autistic? But, people really do have those, things that they're going through. So
Yeah.
I love adding that into my universe.
Absolutely. I thought about that when you said I had a cousin that had sickle cell. So, and you don't hear about it. Of course, one of the reasons is it overwhelmingly affects Black people.
Mhm.
So, of course, it's not something that affects a general population. And
Mhm.
life being what it is in America, you don't hear about it a lot. I like how you, gave Erin this beautiful woman and all of these things, but then you gave her the issue with her hair and having her family be able to deal with it. Your Jah Tribe is so devoted and engaged. Like they go hard for you. How has that community kind of shaped your journey as a writer?
It for sure has shaped my journey, because they're just down for anything. I could literally say, "Hey, I'm going to write about dolphins and a
Yes.
dolphin gang," and they're like, "Well, shoot, then we gonna read about a dolphin gang." It's because they're so supportive. So it makes writing easier, and it makes me want to give them. That's why I give them books so fast, because it's like, y'all really support me. Y'all love this. Like, this universe means as much as it does to me to y'all too. So it makes me want to go ahead and keep pushing the books out. So it means a lot.
Your books, they honestly could be a film. If you were to somebody were to adapt one of your books or start with something, which one of the books would you want to see adapted for TV or film?
The popular answer would be the Delgatos, which I would love to see them. I would love to see them on Stars with 50 Cent producing them and all of that. But if I had to pick something besides the Delgatos, I would love to see my Lennox Hill series.
Because that is my favorite. That is one of my favorite
It's
series.
one of
Like
my
I
favorites
love that
too.
series. Oh my
Everybody's
god.
always surprised, like, not the Delgatos. I'm like, well, they came before the Delgatos, and they're like my favorite series.
Yeah, that was one of the series I read when I was in treatment. But I absolutely loved the Lennox Hill series, and nobody ever talks about it.
Nobody does. The Delgatos have overshadowed them. But
I
I
think
think
the
it's also
Delgatos,
their
Infernos, and Casellis have overshadowed everything.
everything, because people sometimes find me, still finding me, and they're like, I found you through the Delgados, but I had no idea that you have a back catalog.
What makes it your favorite?
It makes it my favorite because when I was writing that series, I was kind of in a dark time, and I kind of wanted to just write each character just different. Like with Astoria, she was, going through this marriage that she shouldn't have been in, and trying to be a mom,
Mhm.
and also, being this person of like the title, like, I'm fine, thanks, and pushing through, when she really wasn't fine. She was struggling, like, she was trying to be a mom, she was a therapist, and then her husband wasn't nothing. So I really wanted to, kind of write something for women that seem like they're stuck in the marriage and to get out if you can. and kind of put yourself first, because she never put herself first. She was just a mom, then she was a wife, then a mom. So she never put herself first until she met Bray. And then with Harlem, I wanted to kind of touch on women that, she's this influencer and everybody thinks is perfect, and behind closed doors she's bulimic and she struggles with self-confidence and that kind of stuff. And then with Ember, I really wanted to showcase like infertility, and the amount of women that have reached out to me on, struggle with infertility and cried about that book is one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
I wanted to showcase that where, her infertility, it was the, wrong time for her. Like she eventually got her baby, but it had to be with the right person. So it
Exactly.
was not of a no, it was a not right now.
Not right now. Like you said, the kind of the Delgatos, Infernos, Casellis have kind of taken over. Do you see yourself you have the Brookwood series too. Do you see yourself doing more stuff like the Lennox Hills series?
For sure.
Okay. Good. Yay. How has your writing evolved from when you first started to now through these different themes? And are there any themes or elements that have become more important to you from when you first started?
I've evolved a lot, because when I read my old books, I just cringe. I'm like, but I won't change them because I like to see the change. Anytime I'm struggling with something, I like to go back and be like, you was here and now look, you're here. But I definitely, with my writing now, I like to kind of give that well-rounded character as before. Like my male characters, I can even admit they would be shitheads, and then the book will end and they were still shitheads. So I like to kind of have them kind of grow. Same with my female characters. I like to have them like, yeah, they may start off like, oh my gosh, she's getting on my nerves. But by the end, you're kind of like, okay, I understand her. And like, she's trying and, she's changing. So I like to definitely give well-rounded characters. So by the time the book or the series is ending, you're not like, well, he still sucks. But you're like, oh, okay, they went through all of this, but they came out on the other side.
I will say, when I was starting Capone, I was like, he's trash. And which I found so hard. It's like, why were people so hard on Capri as she was navigating leaving Naheem? And I was like, her brother busts down two of her best friends. Like, is that not the same? Or are we just forgetting that?
They literally will forget the male could, murder his grandma.
Yeah.
And go to her funeral and knock her coffin down, and the female could only just, pick up her wig, and they're like, oh, why would she pick up the wig? Why did she do this? It's like they give no grace to the females, and the males can be the biggest shitheads, and they're like, oh, he's amazing, I love him.
Oh, and they'll be like, oh, he's just misunderstood.
Right.
So, okay, we have the Casellis. You're about to add the Ashborns. I don't know if I saw anything. Are the Amontes getting a book?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so we're staying in this universe for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're really like, yeah, what's next? And so Kora is up next. No. Is Kora next or the second Goon next?
Second Goon is next, and then Kora's coming right behind him.
What can we expect from Kora?
I think everybody will be surprised by Kora just based off the synopsis that's under her pre-order. They think it's gonna, and it's kind of like the same with Dawn. Everybody just knew Dawn was gonna be with Kennedy.
I did not.
Everybody swore.
Think Dawn would be with Kennedy. I don't know. It was just like, no, I don't think it's Kennedy. She's gonna throw a twist in here. I'm not saying I don't like Kennedy, but Kennedy got some work to do.
Yeah, she has a lot of work to do.
Kennedy need to go sit on Dr. Killian's.
She does. I don't even think she needs to sit. She needs to lay across it.
Yeah.
Get a blanket.
Yeah, I'm like, Kennedy, girl, you're not going outside like this. Just tell me. Okay, hint. Does she turn it around?
She does get a redemption story.
Okay,
which
thank you.
Everybody didn't want her to, but I
do.
She went through so much, and I think a lot of it is so much has happened since we last mentioned Kennedy and Capri that people forget what really happened to her.
Yes.
So she's this person who kind of why her and Zoya kind of like work the closest. They kind of put things behind them. Like, it happened, now we're moving on. So she never really dealt with what happened to her. So I felt like a lot of people, when they met her in Dawn's book and really finally got, a point of view from her, that they kind of forgot, like, this girl went through some things.
Yeah, like,
And
did y'all forget what Menace had to do behind her?
exactly. So I feel like they forget. So Kennedy is gonna get a redemption arc, which I love, because when people didn't like her, I'm like, yes, she did some shitty things. Yes, she was a little
Yeah.
selfish, but I also get where she's coming from. She was more so, as much as Menace and Dawn was saying, hey, we'll take care of you, she also realized, hey, if he chooses me, that's him and his brother. I'm the reason him and his brother won't have a relationship. So that's why she picked the security of the older guy versus Dawn, because she knew what came with that. Like, Dawn was
Exactly.
willing to go against his brother to be with her.
Exactly. I think readers are treating Kennedy like they treated Amy in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, oh, big Amy, big Pre.
They
But
talk
in
so
the
bad on
beginning, they
Amy.
talk shit about poor
They
Amy.
did not see. Like, she had so much going on, and
And I think they forget she was a kid. She was 20, like 19,
yes,
20.
they
They were very young.
yes, somebody admitted, they was like, well, dang, I really did forget that Capella and Amy aren't the same age as, the rest of them. I'm like, they're the youngest, and Capella is younger than Amy.
And Capella's
So,
younger than Amy.
they were more closer to age to Jaden than they are to the other, characters. So I'm like, some of the decisions that they made while us in our 30s, 40s, or 50s and beyond wouldn't have made those decisions, their early 20s, those seemed what was right for them at that time. I'm like,
Exactly.
Amy literally went through so much, and it's
She's
like,
up.
they're like, why is she so dumb? Like, I'm like, it's a trauma response.
It wasn't just her mom, how her mom treated her. Then her
Yes.
father being, gone. And like, and people don't know. And I said, well, damn, I didn't even go through the kind of trauma. And I would hate people to know the dumbass decision I made when I was 19
Right.
and 20. Like, I think now, I sit back now, like, girl, what were you thinking?
Yes.
Like,
And that's the beauty in growing older, becoming wiser, mature. You kind of like, why the hell was I doing that? And
why?
they didn't get there because they're currently going through it. So Amy had to go through these things, and it's kind of like, they're like, she's so dumb. She should have told Cap. She should have. Are you forgetting that her family, literally her own blood, were calling her liars? So do you not see, even no matter how much Cap had reassured her, like, hey, I'm here for you, or this or that, it's a response to being called a liar by her own blood family.
They
For
didn't even believe that
years.
she had been raped.
Right. For years, she's been called a
Oh,
liar.
wait, she didn't tell that, did she?
Yeah, she did tell them.
She did. She told her
Yeah,
mom,
and
right?
the mom basically was like, why are you making up stuff?
Like, so if your own family, why would you think somebody else would be like that there for you? So yeah, I got it.
Exactly.
And I think, and I feel like they're like, they talk about Kennedy in the same way. And I was like, nah, I feel like Kennedy needs a redemption.
She does. She does.
What do you hope readers take away from your story beyond just the romance and the happily ever after?
I hope they take away that you could, whatever lesson in whatever season, like as far as with Capri, I hoped when they read it, which a lot of them did, they took away that you can still get your happy ever after, and that you can still be this big mama. Like, we go through stages, and with Capri, Lord knows Capri went through many stages. But at the end of the day, she still came out on top. She still put herself first. And that's what I wanted for every woman. Like, if you ever lost yourself, put yourself first to find yourself again.
Let's do this. Quick rapid fire round. First thing that come to your mind. Hardest season to write.
I'm going to go with season 4.
Season 4. That was
Quasim.
Quasim, right? Yeah. Character you'd want to have dinner with.
I would like to have dinner with Aliyah. Because my girl be
Aliyah,
cooking.
really? See,
My
I
girl
want
be
Stevie.
cooking.
I think Stevie would be a hoot. Book boyfriend you would choose for yourself. And I think I know this because I think we kind of talked about it, touched on it, but
I'm gonna go with Big Cat.
really? I thought you would say Quasim.
Love Quasim, but I would have to go with Big Cat.
Your writing snack of choice. What do you like to snack on?
Dots pretzels.
Really?
Yeah, they're my favorite pretzels.
Okay.
And lately, it's been Doritos Nacho Cheese. I don't know how long this phase is gonna last, but lately it's been that.
Like I'm in this whole popcorn thing. I got a popcorn maker last year for my birthday. Like one of those like big movie theater popcorn makers. So now I'm like I'm like doing all kind of seasonings and dessert popcorn and popcorn. I'm making everybody popcorn. So everybody's getting popcorn for Christmas. I don't care. Most challenging scene you've written.
I'm gonna go with in Quasim when Elijah has to basically tell Blair what happened to him. It was challenging because I wanted to paint the picture but not tell the picture. So I had to rewrite that chapter over maybe about 7 times before I felt it was right.
Oh, wow. I can see that. I can see that because I mean, it's heartbreaking. And I feel like we're not finished with that. I think that's coming back
We're
also.
not.
So are all of these also still the Elijah's? Well, yeah, that's got to tie in because that doctor is part of the egg farming.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not gonna go back down this rabbit hole. One trope. I don't know if you really write in tropes though. But tropes that you'll never get tired of writing.
I love an age gap.
Okay, really? Yeah, because there's an age gap with Kora and Skylar. They're
Kora
like
and
what?
Skylar, Cap and Aliyah.
Cap and Aliyah. Is there a big age
Not
gap
so
between
much
Cap?
with Erin and Capone. It's not so much because Erin was already in her 30s, but
Okay.
it's a little bit of an age gap. I love an age gap.
And it's like a 15-year gap for Skylar and Kora, right?
Yeah,
She's
around
like
there,
21. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's young.
Yeah.
And Skylar is the one that Cap was in the trap
Saved
house,
in the
right?
trap house. Yep.
Saved in the trap. One last question. Who are you reading? Like, I see like all these authors that are like, on Jahquel and reading Jahquel. Who is Jahquel reading?
Right now, currently, I'm reading Shanora Williams.
Oh,
Her
yes.
book that comes out, I believe, in December next month. I want to say it's Sweet Little Hearts. It's the second book in her series.
Yep.
So I'm actually reading that as much as I want to. When I first got it, I was on the couch glued, and then I'm like, I cannot keep ignoring these emails. I cannot keep ignoring the responsibilities. So I'm excited to finally finish that up. Tanvier, she has her rugby book that's dropping, so I'm trying to finish up Shanora's book so I can jump to that. So
okay, I guess I wanted to ask some other stuff, but I know you ain't gonna tell me. Can I get a hint? What's coming in Goon 2? Or do I want a hint from Kora? Can I get a hint from one or the other?
From Goon 2, I'm gonna go with expect the unexpected because everyone thinks they know who the Red Hood killer is. And nobody that I've seen make videos or in comments has guessed it. So when you guys really, get the whole lore of the Red Hood killer, you're gonna be like,
Jahquel, this has been everything I hoped for and more. Your work literally got me through one of the hardest times in my life, and I know I'm not alone in that. The universes you create, the families you build, the love stories you tell, they're more than just books. They're experiences, their community, their home. Thank you for your time, your talent, and for trusting us with these stories.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Yay, thank you so
my
much.
Stories.
What Jahquel does, and what makes her work so essential, is she shows us that putting yourself first isn't selfish. It's survival. It's how you find your way back to yourself. And for Black women who've been taught our whole lives to pour from empty cups, to be strong for everyone else, to put ourselves last, these stories are revolutionary. Capri's journey, all these women's journeys across the Jah universe, they're permission slips. They're saying, you can be messy, you can lose yourself, you can go through your stages, and you still deserve your happily ever after. You still deserve to come out on top. That's not just romance, y'all. That's ministry. And that's why we need these stories. That's why representation matters. Because sometimes you need to see someone who looks like you choose herself first, so you remember that you can too. Culture Lit family, if you haven't started the Delgato Inferno Caselli verse yet, what are you waiting for? Clear your schedule, stock up on snacks, and prepare to get your entire life rearranged. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Share this episode with everyone who needs to join the Jah Tribe. Until next time, keep reading, keep loving, and keep celebrating the stories that move us.
You've been listening to Culture Lit with Octavia Marie, and that's all for us this week. Be sure to listen, download, or subscribe to more episodes of Culture Lit. You can find Culture Lit on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple listeners, please be sure to leave a review and let us know what you think. Don't forget to talk to me on social or share your Black love stories at Becoming Octavia Marie on Instagram or XO Octavia Marie on Twitter.